Hello everyone, my name is John McCann and I am the Tabletop Tutor. Today I will be teaching you how to play Trains by Hisashi Hayashi, released in 2013 by AEG. Trains is a game for 2 to 4 players ages 12 and up and can be played in 45 minutes. You can use the chart here to fast forward to the places in the video that you specifically want to listen to. You might note that in my table of contents I'll cover the end game before I cover the detailed rules. I do this so that you can have an idea of the end game goals while we are covering the more nuanced rules for the game. Trains is a deck building game where you work to build the strongest system of rails in Japan. Your cards allow you to buy other cards to tune your deck, lay rail lines, and build train stations. The goal is to have the most powerful railway network. You accomplish this by collecting victory points from cards, railways, and stations. Each player pick a color and take all 21 cubes of that color. Place one of your color cubes on the 0 space of the victory point tracker. Each player takes 7 normal train cards, 2 lay railed cards, and 1 station expansion card, for a total of 10 cards from their starting hand. Shuffle your starting cards to form a face-down draw pile on your left. Please note, a common suggestion for deck builder style games, players should agree at the beginning of the game what convention each player is using to track their draw pile and discard piles to reduce confusion during gameplay. I'm using my little hands card holder as a spacer for the player area. Typically, the face down draw pile is kept to the left of the player area and the face up discard pile is kept to the right. Choose which side of the board to use, Tokyo or Osaka, and place it in the center of the table. The two sides are different for gameplay variety. Place all 30 white station tokens in a pile close to the game board. The common supply includes express train, limited express train, lay rails, station expansion, apartment, tower, and skyscraper, and of course waste. Create the supply of randomized cards by taking the randomizer deck. These are the cards that have the word randomizer on the card front and backs. These cards are used to ensure that every game of Trains is a unique experience. Shuffle the 30 randomizer cards and randomly select 8. If this is your first game, the game designer recommends that you include the landfill card as one of your 8 random cards for an easier first game experience. I then take the 8 random cards and the starting cards and I align them based on the face value of each of the cards, the number in the red circle, going from the least expensive card to the most expensive card. Wastes are cards that can't be purchased, so I set those off to the side by the game board. All players draw 5 cards to form their starting hand, which they get to look at. The player who most recently traveled by train is the starting player. Going clockwise around the table, players place 1 cube as their starting point, typically a city space that allows for 2 or 3 stations, as those are more valuable in the endgame scoring. However, in reality, the only off-limit spaces are C spaces, remote locations with the stars on them, and any location already containing another player's starting point. So for example, someone might go here, 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 and there. During a player's turn, the active player may both play cards from their hand and buy cards from the supply, in any order as many times as they choose. However, they must fully complete each action, playing a card or buying a card, before moving to the next action. When a player has finished playing and buying cards, go to the cleanup stage. In the cleanup stage, put all your cards in your hand in your play area and your newly acquired cards to your discard pile. Then draw a hand of 5 new cards. If, when you are drawing cards, your draw pile runs out, then shuffle your discard pile to form a new draw pile. A player is not forced to either spend all the money generated or play all of their cards during a turn. A player may decide to pass their turn. A player who passes as a special action returns all waste cards from their hand to the waste deck in the supply. I will cover the details of how to play in the detailed rules section, but first, let me tell you how the end game gets triggered and how the game is scored, so you can think about that when we go through the detailed rules. Alright, so here's a game where the green and blue players have completed the game. It's not unusual to reach the end of a game and have the victory score tracker not move at all. That's really dependent upon which cards were in play during the game. So first of all, any cubes that are sitting on locations that don't have stations or stars with numbers have no point value at the end of the game. So we'll remove those from the board. Next, we take a look at the cities that have a single station. Cities with a single station are worth 2 points. So I'll do blue first. 2, 4 points to blue. Green, 2, 4, 6. This city has a station, but there's no player token on it, so that just gets removed. Next, cities that have 2 stations are worth 4 points. Blue, 4, 8, 12, 12 plus 4 is 16. Green, 4, 8, 12, 16. 16 plus 6 is 22. Next we have cities that have 3 stations upon them. These are worth 8 points. So green gets 8 points. 22 plus 8 is 30. You'll notice I left these 3 alone. You could score them, but when both players are present on a city tile, it's a wash. So in this case, both players get 2, 4, 6 points. 6 plus 6, 22. 30 plus 6, 36. Finally, the locations that have stars are worth that star value. So green gets 2 points to 38. Blue gets 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 22 plus 9, 31. Finally, you go through the player's hand at the end of the game and you find all of the yellow victory point cards. These are cards that they purchased during the game. 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 15, 19, 21, 22, 38 plus 22 is 60. Blue has 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. 28 plus 31 is 59. And that, my friends, was a 1-point game. The player with the highest victory point total has won the game and the title King of the Rails. If 2 or more players are tied, the player with the most rail tokens on the board wins the title. If players are still tied, they share the victory. Now that you know the basic rules and how the end game works, let's dive into the details of the game. You start each turn with no money and 5 cards in your hand. Playing a card means taking a card from your hand, laying it on the table face up for all players to see. Card sequence matters in this game. Read your action cards carefully. Some of them will call for cards to be either in your play area or your hand to be affected. Make sure your cards are in the right area when you play them to get the most out of your hand. When you play a card, the following things happens. Gain as much money as the card's value as indicated in the white circle on the top left of the card. Totaling this value from your played cards is the currency you are using this turn. Money is a concept that you're going to spend to either lay rails or purchase cards. Money does not carry over from one round to the next. Implement the effect indicated on the bottom of the card if you can afford it or meet the indicated prerequisites to do so. Please note that if you choose to apply the effect, you must be able to apply the entire effect in full and resolve it from top to bottom as indicated in the card. The only exception is that if the card requires you to pick up waste, but the waste deck in the supply area is depleted, you can still apply the effect. Lucky you. In a minute, I'll walk you through the various cards and what they do. And once the card effect is fully applied, then you can move on to your next card or move on to purchasing cards from supply. Buying a card means taking a card from the common supply and putting it into your gained cards area. These cards do not count as being played this turn, and they are not yet in your discard area. This is an important distinction which keeps played and gained cards from getting shuffled into your draw pile in the middle of your current turn. In order to buy a card, you must have enough money from cards you've played to pay for the cost of the card. When a player has finished playing and buying cards, go to the cleanup stage. In the cleanup stage, put all your cards in your hand, in your play area, and your newly acquired cards to your discard pile, then draw a hand of 5 new cards. If, when you are drawing cards, your draw pile runs out, then shuffle your discard pile to form a new draw pile. Cards. The red circle in the top right-hand corner represents the cost to purchase the card. Value. The white circle in the top left-hand corner represents how much purchasing power this card has when played. This may be referenced as money or value. Blue cards are denoted by the blue train symbol in the middle of the card. Typically provide value, some provide actions which are denoted by the red triangle in the middle of the card. Green cards also denoted by the green track symbol in the middle of the card. Green cards give you the ability to lay tracks and extend your reach on the game board. All green cards when played also generate waste, which we will discuss later. Another point I need to make about the lay rails card is that when you play a lay rails cards, you're going to lay a rail and generate a waste, and then for the special lay rails cards, you have an additional benefit which is going to be in effect for the remainder of the turn. So the steel bridge negates the cost of going over a river. Tunnel negates the cost of the mountain. Viaduct, the city. Collaboration, playing where other players' rail tokens are located, including the additional waste gained from that activity. And subway excavation negates any of these extra costs. But in any case, whenever you play a green card and lay a rail, you are going to generate at least 1 waste from that activity. Please note, it's not a good strategy to just lay tracks anywhere on the board because only track in the city and remote locations actually score points. I will talk more about laying rails in a moment. The purple card is the station expansion, which allows you to add stations to the city locations on the game board. In this image, Hashimoto, gray, can hold 1 station, Machida, pink, can hold 2 stations, and Hachioji, orange, can hold 3 stations. Playing the station expansion card will also generate waste. Gold cards are victory point cards. When you buy a gold card, you will generate waste, but at the end of the game, these cards are worth victory points as indicated inside the star in the lower left-hand corner of the card. Early in the game, these gold cards will limit your ability to have effective turns. Learning when to transition from building your deck to purchasing victory cards can be a key element to victory. Too early and your turns become ineffective. Too late and your opponent runs away with a landslide victory. Red cards are the action cards. Each red card has a unique description. Remember that when playing any action, you must perform the action completely before moving to another action card or before purchasing another card. Black cards are waste cards. You cannot buy waste cards, but you pick them up when playing green or purple cards or when purchasing gold cards. Waste cards will clog up your hand, and learning to manage your waste is a key part of this game. Laying rails means to take one of your rail tokens and placing it on the board. You can only place tokens adjacent to spaces in which you already have tokens. Here's some different scenarios that you might encounter. So in order to come into a grassland, all you have to do is play a lay rails card, and then you'll generate 1 waste. If you wanted to instead go into a river, you have to play a lay rails card and 1 normal train card to pay the cost of the river space, and that'll generate a waste. If you want to go into a city space, I'd come into the city, I'd pay 1 extra cost because I'm going into a city, and that's going to still generate my waste. If I want to go into a location that has a station, I'm going to pay 1 for the city and 1 for each station token that is on that location. In this case, Hashimoto, I would spend 1 for the city, 1 for the station. So I'd have to spend 2 costs in order to move into this location, and I'm going to, of course, generate a waste. If instead I want to come into a location, for example, where there's a opponent, I'm going to spend one for the city and one for each opponent that's sitting there. And because there's an opponent there, it's also going to generate waste. So I'm going to spend one to come into the city, and then I'm going to spend an additional one because my opponent's there. The lay rails is going to generate waste, and because there's already an opponent's cube present, it's also going to generate a waste. Another scenario is, so here's a location that has 2 of my opponents and 3 towers. So I may have play my lay rails card to come into this city, one for the city and one for each station, so that's 4. So let's go ahead and put that down. So that gets me into the city, and that's going to generate a waste, but because my opponent's there, I have to spend an additional 2 cost, one for each of my opponents, and that's also going to generate a waste. So a lot of money to go in there. The benefit of that is that now I get to share at the end of the game in the 8 points that this location is going to generate. So he's going to play a lay rail station with 1 normal train card in order to place a blue into this city, and that's going to gain him 1 waste. And then he's going to play a lay rails card with another normal trains to pay the cost. That'll gain him a waste. And then he's going to play a station expansion to add a station, which will also gain him 1 waste. These cards go into his discard pile. Lay rails and going out over a river, can expand over the river. That'll gain a waste card. We'll do a station expansion to add a station here, and that'll gain a waste. And then with 2 cards left, the cheapest card available is the landfill card, which will go into his discard pile. 2, 3, 4, 5 to spend, and we will pick up a wagon factory. Got 2 lay rails. I'm going to spend 1 of the lay rails to move into the Shinkujo Shibuya location. That cost me 1 to get there, and it's going to generate a waste. The second lay rails, without spending any more money, come out into this grassland over here. That will generate a waste. Can't do anything with the rest of my cards. That goes into my discard pile. Oh, look at that. Pulled 4 waste cards. The other player is just going to discard the 4 waste cards and return the lay rails to his discard pile. Okay, that's interesting. A couple of station expansions. We'll do 1, generates a waste. We'll do 2, and that also generates a waste. And all this waste just goes back into our discard pile. Got a station expansion. I like station expansions because they give me points at the end of the game. That generates a waste. 2 to spend. No real point in spending that. 4 to spend. We'll pick up a tourist train. This is interesting. So I picked up a viaduct. The viaduct allows me to lay rails into cities. Cost of laying into the cities is nullified. So I am going to be able to expand into this city with no extra cost. And this effect is good for the entire turn. I can now play this lay rails card in order to extend into this city at no extra cost other than generating a waste. Lay a rail to get into a grassland, maybe competing against the opportunity to get there. I just generated a lot of waste that turn. Thank you for watching this tabletop tutorial for trains by AEG. My name is John McCann and I am the Tabletop Tutor. If you enjoyed this video and would like to follow along as I share games that I enjoy, please find the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes.